All right, if you're a resident of Park Lake or Mirabella, this one's for you. We're going to do a deep dive and break down exactly what's been happening in our real estate market this past year, what it means, and most importantly, what it means for the value of your home. So let's just jump right into it. This is the big question on everyone's mind, right? You see one for sale sign go up, and it just sits there. And then another one down the hall sells in what feels like a heartbeat. So what's the deal? I can tell you right now, it's not just luck. The market has fundamentally changed, and understanding the new rules of the game is absolutely everything. And that's the first thing we really need to get our heads around. We are in a totally different market. The old playbook, the strategies that worked great 2 or 3 years ago, well, today, they're the very things that are causing properties to stall. We're playing by a whole new set of rules now. So what does this new reality look like? Well, for one, today's buyers are basically detectives. They've got apps, they've got data, and trust me, they track everything. When a property is overpriced from the start and then gets relisted, sometimes 2, 3, even 4 times with little price drops, it doesn't scream deal to them. It actually raises a huge red flag. They start to wonder, what's wrong with this place? And just as critical, we're seeing tiny little listing errors like getting the neighborhood wrong, make a property practically invisible to the very people who want to buy. This all leads to this really dangerous thing called market fatigue. Think of it like a new movie. There's a lot of buzz when it first comes out, right? But if it stays in theaters for too long, that initial excitement just fizzles out. The listing loses its shine, it gets stale, and buyers just scroll right past it. This is probably the single biggest risk of getting that initial price wrong. And as we're about to see, it has had a massive impact on our building. Okay, so let's get specific. We're going to start by zooming in on Park Lake. The data here tells a really fascinating story about how the building is adapting, or in some cases not adapting, to this new landscape. First step, the raw numbers. The average sales price at Park Lake, well, it saw a drop. It went from about $723,000 in 2024 down to $653,000 in 2025. And, this really mirrors the broader market adjustment we're seeing pretty much everywhere. But price is only half the story. Now check this out. This is where it gets really telling. The time factor. Back in 2024, it took, on average, just 24 days to sell a unit. This year, that number has shot up to 82 days. That's nearly 3 times longer. What does that tell us? It shows that buyers are pumping the brakes. They're taking their sweet time, they're being way more selective, and they are definitely not rushing into any decisions. But hey, this isn't all bad news. Not at all. In fact, when you dig into the data, there's a really positive signal for the building that we need to talk about. And here it is, 7. That's the number. That's how many units actually successfully sold at Park Lake in 2025. Now, in a market where a lot of other buildings are seeing almost 0 sales, this number shows what we call strong absorption. It means that even with tougher conditions, there are still buyers who really want to be in Park Lake, as long as the property is priced and presented the right way. Okay, so let's shift gears and head over to Mirabella. The story here is a powerful case study in what happens when there's a major disconnect between what sellers hope to get and what buyers are actually willing to pay. The report calls it price resistance, and it's a big deal. I mean, just look at this slowdown. We went from 44 sales in 2024 all the way down to just 17 in 2025. Now, let's be super clear. This doesn't mean people don't want to live in Mirabella. It means buyers are hitting the brakes hard, refusing to overpay in a market that has clearly shifted. Okay, everyone, if you only look at one slide, make it this one. This explains everything about the Mirabella market. Look at the 2+1 bedroom units. On the far left, that bar shows what buyers actually paid on average, about $671,000. Now look all the way to the right. That bar shows what the listings that failed to sell were asking for, $780,000. That's it, right there. That's the $100,000 gap. It's the market drawing a very clear line in the sand. And here's the real-world consequence of that disconnect. Over the last 2 years, 48 listings were just terminated. They failed to sell. Another 45 plus were relisted over and over again, suffering from that market fatigue we just talked about. This data is the proof. Starting way too high doesn't get you a better price in the end. A lot of the time, it gets you no price at all. Now, moving beyond just the price, there's another critical problem affecting both buildings, and it's something so simple, so technical, that you'd think it wouldn't matter, but it's costing sellers dearly. We're talking about basic listing errors. Just take a look at this. This is wild. A staggering 70% of the listings at Mirabella were tagged with the wrong neighborhood, South Parkdale, instead of the correct High Park, Swansea. You might think, what's the big deal? But in today's digital world, that's a massive, massive mistake. And here's exactly why it matters so much. Think about how you search for things online. You use filters, right? Well, serious buyers do too. They go online and they specifically search for High Park, Swansea. If your unit is accidentally listed under South Parkdale, those motivated buyers, they will never even see your listing. Poof, you're invisible to your target audience, and that kills demand before you even get out of the gate. So, okay, we've looked at all this data, the price resistance, the market fatigue, these really costly errors. So what's the big takeaway? What's the winning formula as we look ahead? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. It really all boils down to a simple 3-step formula. Step 1, price it correctly from day one. Base it on what is actually selling right now, not on what you were hoping to get a year ago. Step 2, list it accurately. Get every single little detail right, especially the neighborhood, so you show up in the right searches. And 3, position it perfectly. With great photos and presentation, make it stand out to those really picky buyers. And that brings us to the final and honestly the most important point of this whole deep dive. Your property's value isn't determined by a hopeful, optimistic asking price on a listing that sits and goes stale. Real, true, sustainable value is built by one thing: actual sales. It's the successful, closed deals that set the new standard for everyone. So, the question for any seller moving forward isn't, what can I ask for? It's, what will it take to make my property the next successful sale?